All right, let's get this going. So welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be covering some grading techniques in Civil 3D. My name is Justin DeVore. I'm a senior civil and reality capture specialist here with ATG. Also, we have Felix Cortez. He also used to work with us at ATG and jumped on to help on here too. So we got a couple people in here. Basically, feel free to open up the questions and answers chat in there. But yeah, so Felix and I will be kind of co-hosting this webinar, and we'll be kind of going through these together. We'll talk a little bit of what we're seeing in the industry from others, and we'll also be monitoring the chat, Q&As, things like that. So Felix, if you want to kind of give a quick introduction of yourself, and we'll go and get rolling.
Sure. So I have a little over 20 years experience in civil design, civil industry. Started all the way back at AutoCAD version 8 through Eagle Point, LDD, and obviously Civil 3D. So I've just had I've always tried to push the software as far as I can without completely breaking it, and just come up with some workflows that are definitely out of the ordinary, but still within the out of the box tools.
Yeah, awesome, cool. Well, we're glad to have you. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to jump on and co-host this one with me.
Yeah, anytime.
All right, so today's agenda. So between Felix and myself, we're going to be going through multiple methods for grading in Civil 3D. We'll go through some feature lines, we'll go through grading objects, corridors, and then we'll also kind of showcase one of the CTC tools, the auto grader. Okay, and basically kind of at the end and throughout, we're going to kind of analyze and showcase the differences. So really by the end of this, you'll hopefully have a good apples to apples comparison of what we could do at different types of grading. Really kind of the important thing here is, there's no wrong way. We talk about this all the time about, there being 12 ways to draw a line in AutoCAD, right? There's a lot of different techniques. There's nothing really wrong about what your preference is, right? It's just a preference, but we do kind of want to showcase what else is out there too. There are some that, personally I like a little more than others. And Felix, I bet you could say the same as far as you have a couple preferences as far as what you like to do grading on your projects.
Yeah, and usually the mentality I go into every project with is, obviously there are some shortcomings to the out of the box tools, but typically we want to have as much of our surface be dynamic as possible. That way, obviously errors don't happen, and that's where some of these workflows, it just depends. I like to use the analogy, I have a bunch of tools on my tool belt and just trying to figure out which one works for that specific scenario.
That's funny you mentioned that. I use a similar analogy when I do teaching and training and webinars like this. Is I like to think of Civil 3D as a tool, but instead of a tool belt, I refer to it as my tool bag, like a handyman going on a job kind of thing. Like a hammer is going to do a lot for you. That's one of the tools in there, but every once in a while you need that screwdriver, right? But also understanding your tools and how you can get them to work for you, kind of makes you, more unique versus somebody else with, same tool belt as you. Or same tool bag. So,
and by hammer, I'm sure you mean explode, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Explode, audit, purge, delete, send to somebody else, whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's a little bit of the agenda for today, what we're going to be going through. Just going to kind of highlight this real quick, but myself and Felix we're very hands-on people, so we're not going to bore you to death with PowerPoint slides for 40 minutes for jump in and do some stuff live. Okay, so but we're going to be going through grading with feature lines. Okay. We'll be covering some of the grading with objects, with grading objects built into Civil 3D. Okay. We'll be going through some grading options with corridors. Okay, so a lot of you may be familiar and have done a lot of these. What we're trying to showcase here again is a comparison of similar ones, but also maybe kind of showcase maybe a different way, especially in corridors, of maybe something you haven't started doing yet on there. And then we'll also be diving into the CTC tools, and specifically with AutoGrader on here, okay, on how to set that up and how that can work for us. Okay, and then kind of before we get going there, I got this from another tech here at ATG, but I noticed in his webinars and his trainings, he always likes to kind of throw in additional CAD tips. So I'm starting to borrow that idea in there. So here's one that I always kind of, that you know, when people are like, hey, how'd you do that? You know, like, because I do this Control-1 for my property dialog box all the time to, you know, give myself some clarity there. But there's a whole bunch that Control can do for you. So like Control-0, we can get a nice clean screen, you know, maximize our view space. Control-1, like I mentioned, the property dialog box. Then also we'll be bringing up the tool palettes specifically when it comes to the tool palettes and working with corridors, things like that. So Felix, what's one of your favorite control commands that you use all the time?
Oh, Control-Alt-Delete for when AutoCAD crashes.
There you go. Nice. I do not have that. I should add that one on there.
Yeah,
Control-Alt-Delete
it's the
to end
one
task.
we learn very often and
Yep.
unfortunately very frequently.
Yep. Save often, and every once in a while have to hit end task and restart there. So cool. Awesome. So let's go and dive into a demo here. All right, so let's go. I'll go and kind of kick this off, and we'll start with some feature lines. Not sure why I keep switching to layout there, but that's all good. Okay, so we have a little site here, just to kind of give you a lay of the land, so to speak. We have this little commercial site, okay, and everything here is listed as feature lines. Like I mentioned, just kind of showcase. So if I did Control-0, that's going to maximize my space there, and Control-1 is going to turn on and off my property dialog box. Okay, so I'll go ahead and throw those back on there. But we got some feature lines around here. Okay, so we have a gutter line. Okay, so this is representing the gutter in here. Okay. And let's just go ahead and we'll dive into it. Like I said, this is not, you know, we kind of want to showcase everything. This is not a grade out a whole site, you know, in 40 minutes kind of thing, but we want to showcase some different tools. So I'm going to go and grab this feature line. As you're probably familiar with, feature lines have 3D data information. So we're going to go ahead and do a stepped offset on this to be able to basically kind of get that curb and gutter in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the line here, and then I'm going to go ahead and do over here up on my contextual ribbon, I'm going to go ahead and do a stepped offset of this feature line. Okay, so I'm going to go and select that. And then down here on my command line, that's going to let me know what I want to do next. So I'm going to specify that distance. And the first one, I'm going to go to top back of curb. Okay, so right here, this is representing the gutter line. So I want to go top back of curb. So I'll go 2 inches there. So I'm going to do 0.167. Okay, and then specify side to offset. So I'm going to, since this is gutter, I'm going to go to the back side. Okay, and then here I have some options here of elevation difference. I can switch to grade, slope, or set a target elevation, you know, like 100 feet, consistent all the way around, or I can have it vary, but I'll go and keep this on difference for now. And we'll just go ahead and go up, we'll call this 6-inch curb. So we'll go up 0.5, okay. All right, so that went ahead and went in there. Let's go ahead and get a, we'll go ahead and get the flange or the inside of that gutter in there. So we'll do another stepped offset. And I'll just do a couple here. Okay, specified side, I'll go to the inside. And then for this one, we'll go ahead and set the slope. Okay, and we'll set the slope at 2%. All right, so we got some of those in here. Okay, so we got those lines. Now I could go through and add everything else into here, but let's go ahead and just add this to the surface. So I have let's go and turn on this existing ground surface. Let's go and showcase triangles. I don't think I have anything loaded in here yet, but let's go and add this to the surface as a break line. Okay. And we'll just say, we'll call this curb, right? Just go and select those. Okay, so I have those started, right? I can go ahead and add those feature lines and things like that in here. Okay, so this, at least in my opinion, Felix, this is kind of the quick way of getting an idea across, right? Like utilize feature lines to kind of get yourself a quick little surface and things like that. Now, one disadvantage I see is these are not dynamically linked, right? So if I had a design change, right, we never have those in the industry, but if we had to adjust, you know, the X and Y there, my stepped offsets don't cover with me. So I'm going to have to redo that again. But from what I've found, stepped offsets and working with feature lines is kind of a quick way to kind of get something through. Or if I'm already at my final design, maybe this is some final tweaks that I'm adding, maybe to a valley gutter or to a curb inlet or other things like that. So Felix, where do you find, like, what's your opinion on feature lines and stepped offsets there?
Yeah, and that's it's definitely something for somebody who's starting off learning how to grade in Civil 3D. It's a great tool. Um, Again, as you get further down the line on projects and just industry experience, you realize we're never going to get it right the first time. There's always going to be some kind of change, and that's where you start getting into these other tools like corridor CTC tools and grading objects to get those feature lines and that are not dynamically linked now to start working together with other things.
Yeah, definitely. So I rough put you on the spot, but rough percentage of maybe a site, you know, whether that's commercial or residential, like what percentage do you think you would have like feature lines there throughout your project? If you could throw a number at it.
As far as flow lines go, probably 100%. I do a lot of, like I said, I take the tools that maybe aren't intended to be used a certain way, especially with corridors, and CTC tools obviously is a big part of that. But I usually, for my flow lines, I'll use feature lines for pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then to dynamically link everything else, that's where I'll kind of go to CTC tools, which you'll probably show here shortly.
Yeah.
But yeah, feature lines are definitely huge on commercial projects versus with residential, you're going to rely more on alignments and profiles.
Right. Excellent. Cool. So yeah, I'm not going to go ahead and grade out this whole thing. Really, again, this was just to kind of discuss the ideas, you know, and like a little bit back and forth. But again, if you have any questions or want to make any chats or make any comments in the chats, feel free. Both Felix and I will monitor those and get to those when we can. Okay, so we'll go to basically kind of that next area with the grading objects. So I'm just going to go ahead and grade out this pond here. Okay, so again, we're starting with a feature line, kind of give you a lay of the land here a little bit. So this has a elevation associated to it. It's a feature line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and utilize my grading tools, right? So we had done stepped offsets with the feature lines, but now I'm going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and go to the grading tools. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the Home tab in Civil 3D, and I'm going to go ahead and open up my grading tools here. Okay, grading creation tools, and then have those open. Okay, so very similar here, like we can grade to elevation, to surface, distance, just like what we did with feature line, but instead of on the command line, it's up here in this little toolbar. Okay, so grading tools, we're going to have to there's a little more setup versus feature lines. So feature lines, we're using that to create these grading groups, and I'll kind of show you what you mean. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and set a grading group. Okay, and I'll go and set it to my site in here. Okay. All right, and then I'll just go and give it a quick name. So we'll call this grading group pond. Okay, nothing too crazy here. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and set my target surface if I wanted to daylight to anything. So I'll go and set my building site, existing ground. Sure, that'll be fine in there. Okay. All right, and then over here, basically what we want to do is we'll go ahead and grade out this pond in here. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of lay out my tools ahead of time. Okay, so I'm gonna go grade to relative elevation. Okay, and then let's go ahead and go into this edits. Okay, gotcha. Oh, I see Kyle Groves and Felix are coming back up. Cool. All right, so here in my I got the relative elevation. I'm going to go ahead and set that relative elevation. I want to go down. Let's go down 3 feet. Okay, and we'll keep a slope. And let's go ahead and do, let's do a slope of 2 to 1. Okay, that way when we throw this in, this will be a little drastic. All right, so we'll go ahead and hit OK. All right, so I have this all set up and ready to create a grading group. So I'm going to go and pull this down and start by creating grading. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go and select my feature line. And which side do I want to go, inside or outside? I'm going to go and go down, right? I wanted to go down there. Apply to entire length, yes. And then down here, I could overwrite this, but I had already set that up when I went to the edit. So I'm just going to basically review and approve. So I'm just going to hit enter, enter, enter. Okay, so I have that first one in there. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and grade again. Let's go and do a little bench, right? Just to kind of showcase it a little different. So I'm going to go grade to distance, and I'll go ahead and change this. I want to go ahead and make that a 2-foot bench. And then let's go ahead and do like a 20 to 1 slope across here. Okay.
And real quickly, this is when you start, especially when this is like a beginner intermediate type tool where now you definitely saw that having, let's say, a couple hundred feature lines on a project, even something this small is not feasible, and you want to start making some stuff dynamic. This is where the grading tools come in. They do come with a warning, a big warning. You can. They are a great tool. They've been around since the inception of Civil 3D in 2005, but they are as fickle as they come when it comes to tools. So you can't just delete one of these and think, hey, there's nothing wrong. There's a specific way you have to delete these. There's a specific way they have to interact with each other. And as soon as you go outside of one of those parameters, you end up with what I call gremlins in your drawing, or something that has to be fixed.
Yeah, you mentioned gremlins. I refer to it as the drawing bloat and things like that. So yeah, as you go and delete those and things like that, you always have to like audit and purge these things out, because they leave some junk behind. But again, there is a place. So like we could really grade out this and then maybe create a surface, export that out, and paste that surface into our clean drawing, right? So
Exactly.
that might be a way to do that. So I have that bench in here, and then we'll go and do one more step down here. So I'm going to go back to relative elevation, and then let's go ahead and go down. Let's go down 4 feet. Okay, and then we'll go down at maybe a 1-to-1 slope. Okay, make this real drastic. So go ahead and hit OK. Then we'll go and go down here, apply to entire length, and then I'm just going to go ahead and hit enter to accept all those. Okay. All right, so we have those good in here. So if I were to select all these, this grading group, and let's go and take a look at it in Object Viewer. Okay, I still have a hole in the surface, so I need to go ahead and create infill there. So let's go ahead and do that. Go and create an infill. Go and select that. Okay. All right, so now we have that. Now we have this grading group. I'll go and select this, and we'll just go ahead and take a look at that. Okay. All right. So we'll go and orbit around, pan, oops, pan. Okay. All right, so real quickly, we kind of designed out this pond utilizing grading groups. Okay, so appreciate Felix mentioning that in there. So yeah, grading groups look great and we use them a lot, but then sometimes they can corrupt our projects pretty easily. So again, it's a useful tool. Just understand if and when you get corruption, where that's coming from and how can you possibly avoid it, you know? So any additional thoughts and or things on grading groups? I think we kind of covered that, but
yeah, it's just I guess for anybody who doesn't understand. So now we can change that cyan feature line. That's the top of the pond.
yeah,
And those grading groups will update themselves automatically to just like that. So
yep. So if I'm resizing this pond, right, versus what we couldn't do with just feature lines over there. So yeah,
right.
I'm glad you brought that up because I would have forgot about that. Cool. Awesome. So that's grading with grading objects in there. So oh yeah, I see Victor says always have to remember create the infill. Yep, that's why I like doing the object viewer as I go along. You know, I did a big no. I should have saved my drawing before going to that object viewer, you know, but kind of depending on your machine and then also the size of the project, right? This project is really built to kind of demonstrate a lot of things. So it's not like I'm on a, 20-acre site or, 150,000 lot subdivision or something like that, trying these out. So, okay. Any other parting thoughts in there? Okay, yeah, we're good on time there. So I'll go ahead and switch over to the next. We'll do corridors, okay? All right, so yeah, if there's any, like I mentioned, if there's any questions, feel free. And kind of, I'll give you the lay of land of this drawing in here. So this one, gonna go ahead and grade with corridors. So in this scenario, we're gonna go ahead and create a ditch, okay? So I already have an alignment set in here, and then I already have kind of a profile against existing ground kind of set up in here, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and do an offset alignment, okay? So that's what I already have a handful of these in here. So we select those are alignments, okay? But the parent alignment is gonna be this red and blue one in here. And then we also have those offset alignments, okay? So I'll go ahead and do kind of a quick example on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my alignment. And I like selecting things. That's just kind of a personal preference of mine. I like to select, I like to do right clicks. And then also when you select, I like the fact that my ribbon updates to what I'm selecting. Okay, so if I grab a feature line, I get feature line tools up here. If I grab an alignment, I get alignment tools up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do offset alignment. Okay. All right, so see, it's gonna create an offset alignment for me. And I have that parent center line one on here. And then I'm just gonna go and create some on the other side. So I got offset to the left, and let's go ahead and do, yeah, we'll keep this at 50. So from here, I could create on both sides, right? And I could do a number of offsets, but I'm just gonna do one off to the left, okay? And left is being determined by going greater in stationing, okay? So as I go further down, going off to the left, got 50 in there, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead, we could do a range, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and offset the entire alignment. Okay, okay, so we got that offset in here. Okay, and then I'll just go ahead and do a widening just to kind of showcase that. We could hit this plus icon here for the widening, but also I can add widening up here. Okay, create widening portion as new alignment. No, I want to go ahead and have this on there. And then we'll go ahead and do starting station. I'll start that at 5 + 0, 0 and end at 10, 0, 0. Okay. and then widening offset. Let's go and do 80. Okay. All right, so I offset that, and that 80 was offset from the original parent. Okay, so we see that this is -80. That's because it's off to the left versus to the right. And then I can modify and change those stations here in my offset alignment parameters as well. Okay. Also, there's a handful of grips on here that I could go and modify, right? If I wanted to move this to 5 + 50, I could change my widening on there. Okay. All right. So one thing I really like about offset alignments is that they stay dynamic to each other, right? So I can go ahead and modify and change those around. Those stay attached versus those stepped offsets with the feature line. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create a corridor here. Okay.
And another thing real quick on offset alignments. So I think we all know the intersection tool is all but broken. So that's actually one of the things I use. A whole lot of people don't use for subdivision intersections. So when you have two offset alignments at an intersection and they cross each other, like at a T or a cross intersection, you can do what's called a connected alignment. And that connected alignment will actually keep the dynamic properties of the two offset alignments around a return. And it's a cool workflow, because then as you make changes to, let's say, street A, that offset alignment is connected to the connected alignment, which means your return will update automatically. It's an interesting workflow. It's something I don't think a lot of people use, but it's a very powerful tool to keep your intersections dynamic.
Right. Yeah, and before the intersection tool came out, that was how we had to figure out that in there, because the corridors were just perpendicular on there. So we had to create different assemblies for those returns, which you do in the intersection tool anyway, right? But yeah, so it's just keeping it in there. So let's go ahead and create a little section on here. Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and recreate this assembly. Okay, just so that we can kind of talk through this. So I'm going to just create a new assembly. Okay, and we'll just call this one, channel or whatever it may be. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and leave that as is. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and do my Control-3 to bring up my tool palettes. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and looks like there's a question about the green grading lines and red. You want to cover that, Felix, while I set this up?
Yeah, and that really comes down to how your template's set up. Maybe theirs is set up that way, but that's more of a preference thing.
Got it. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and select length, width, and slope as far as one of my sub-assemblies on here. Okay, and then I'll go and set this first one off to the left. We'll go and do a width of 5. And the first slope, I'll go ahead and do, actually, we'll do flat first. Okay, so we'll go 0. Oops. So we'll flatten this out. Then I'll get this off to here. Okay. So I don't know about you, but I always like to zoom in and just select the red circle. I always have, versus grabbing those on there, but maybe that's just kind of a habit there. I'll go and make one off to the right here as well.
Oh, and then here's a quick tip. It's actually a newer feature, but now if you put a left in, if you could click the assembly again, and it'll automatically put the opposite side on.
Oh, so like it does an automatic mirror?
Yeah. So like if you erase them both and put one of them on, and then when you click it a second time, it'll do the opposite side. It's actually pretty cool.
That's awesome. Okay. 10, and then I'll do 50%. So I'll do like a 2-to-1 on this side.
Yeah, so you can click the right side now, right there, and it'll put it on the right side.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, and it changed it to right over here.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. That is cool. Okay. All right, and with this in here, I'll go ahead and just modify this so that our channel just looks a little different. So I'll go ahead and do like a 4:1 instead. So I'll do like 25%. Okay, so we have this assembly built. Okay. So notice on here, I did not follow my channel. Okay, so I did 5 here and I did 10. So I made that very obvious in here. So showcase that why in here, because I like to do targeting. So on the corridor, okay, I'm just going to go and create a new corridor and we'll call that channel. Okay, and we'll go and leave everything on here. So we're going to use that parent center line as the alignment, and then we'll go ahead and do that profile that we have in there. Then we'll go and select that assembly for the channel. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to uncheck the baseline set parameters so we can just see it in here. Okay, so here's why personally I like to make them not to the right size, is so that I can change my targets in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go and select my corridor, go to corridor properties. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and set my targets. Okay, so I'm going to go into the targets. All right, so we got our first one and our second one in here. So we got the foots and slope. Okay, and then we got the lefts and the rights in here. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to go ahead and set the target offset. What's crazy to me, so in 2019, and then they changed the look of this in 2021, and then they changed the look again in like 2022. So it's always a little different every time I come to set these targets. Drives me crazy. I don't know if
Yeah,
you've seen
they
that
think,
too.
yeah, and they're trying to push out this assembly template thing where
Hmm.
you can maybe set up one way you want to do it and copy that template to other sections, but to me this is way more confusing now.
Right. Yeah, I think I prefer the 2021 version
Well,
or
and the
things like
funny
that.
thing is if you had these targets and you were to add a section or add a baseline through the ribbon,
Hmm.
it actually brings up the old um, offset and vertical targeting dialog box. So it's really
Oh,
funny.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's see if I built that right. Okay. Got those in there. So I just did the targets. Let's go and take a look at this channel on there. We'll go and do object viewer. Okay. Actually, let's go and make this a surface while we're doing that.
Yeah, and this is another place where you know, if you guys want to demo, the people watching want a demo done of CTC tools, they have a really good corridor mapper tool
Hmm.
where you name your subassembly the name of a layer, and any line work that goes on that layer, you can use the corridor mapper and it'll automatically assign those targets for you.
Yeah. All right. So we got our channel in there. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. So yeah, we can go ahead and do that in there. But yeah, one thing I do like about grading with corridors. So there's a little more setup, obviously, right? We have to have an alignment. We have to have an assembly. We have to have a profile. Okay. But the fact that, like you've mentioned in the very beginning, the fact that they're all dynamic in there, right? If I go rebuild my corridor in there, my surface is going to update, my alignment offsets are going to follow along, so a lot of that, it's more setup, but we reap the rewards at the end, especially if we have, somebody very, wishy-washy as far as where they want maybe their channel alignment, or we have to kind of change things around there. So
Yeah, and kind of like what we were talking about, or what I usually like to talk about, are I like to use the tools that aren't intended for certain stuff. So corridors on commercial side is usually frowned upon, but I want to say in 2019, maybe it was 2020, they added the ability to use feature lines as baselines. So what that means is now, so I'm going to draw on the screen real quick. So
Yeah, go for it.
you can have, let's say, your curb assembly, right,
Hmm.
on a commercial site, and you can have your feature line be your flow line, and then you can add this in, and now whenever you update, this one feature line, your flow line, your corridor will create your top of curb, back of curb. If you have a sidewalk in here, it'll do your sidewalk.
Hmm.
And again, so now when you kind of like with residential projects, when you update one thing, you're updating multiple things on your surface, and it's all staying dynamic, which is, ultimately what we want is as much of our project to be dynamic as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Appreciate that. Yeah, so that there's, I guess, a third apple to chew on, so to speak. So there's three different ways in there, and then let's go ahead and jump into the CTC tools, the auto grader side of things. So, did you want to switch to your screen, or did we want to do this on mine?
Let's do it on yours.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good. So I'll go and switch over here, and then I'll go ahead and open up, and then let's see. Yeah, Kyle chimed in. Every attachment directly to the assembly creates a new assembly group. Starts with the left and right, but then the center and more keep getting added. Okay, yeah, awesome. Glad you brought that up, Kyle. Easy to view the assembly and properties. Yeah, appreciate that. So let's go to open up the drawing here. Okay, I'm gonna go and change the line weight display. Go and turn that off. Okay. Should we do the subdivision first, or you want to do the commercial site?
let's do the commercial site first.
Okay. Yeah, that way we can at least compare the pond and some of those feature lines. So
Mhm.
excellent. So it's the same thing. We have those feature lines again, right, on here, but this time instead of using the Civil 3D tools, we'll go ahead and use the CTC tools in here. Okay. Uh, so I'll go and select Auto Grader. And then, yeah, Felix, if you want to talk about that a little bit, and I'll kind of drive. Or
Yeah, so I'll annotate it a little bit. So what we're doing here, if we actually go down to one of the building site pond. So what this is going to do is this cyan line is going to be the top of our pond, and kind of like we did with the grading group. It's going to create another feature line for us with the step offset, another one for our bench, and another one for the bottom of the pond. But what we're going to be able to do is change the top parent as we change our design, and then we just rerun this tool and it'll update these other three feature lines for us, hence
awesome.
updating our pond.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that breakdown there. So yeah, if we go into the edits here, so here's what I probably should have did this, but while you were talking about that, but when you were talking about the parent, okay, so what is this interaction? So it's doing that distance of slope. Okay, so we saw that both in the stepped offset with the feature line, as well as with the grading groups. Okay, also the side. Okay, this is just in a nice breaking it down in a good way in a nice dialog box. Okay, so we see a distance of 5 going down at 33%, then it's going to bench, and then it's going to slope down again. Okay, so
And you also don't have to worry about, so one of the other steps that this tool is telling or is going to do for you is right here under the surface, you can tell it what surface when it creates these other feature lines to not only add those, but also the parent to. So when he clicks run here, it's going to add those four feature lines to our building site for us.
yeah, that's excellent. So yeah, we don't have to go ahead and select them and create them, add them as a break line or anything
Right,
like that to the surface. Yeah,
right.
it's going to go and automatically do that. So yeah, once we have this looking how we want, and again, we can go ahead and change the settings and things like that in there, go into the edits and make modifications, and then you just save those. Okay, so we have a bunch of different ones we can run here. So let's go and run the pond. Okay, so simple as that. We got surface as well as, let's go and close this and go and take a look. So we have a surface on the pond, as well as Felix had mentioned, we have additional feature lines added as well. So let's, actually, I'm just going to turn off the surface so that we can all see this. See, this was the building, building site. FG. Okay, we'll go and do this no display for now. Okay, so if we take a look at this, we have a whole bunch of those feature lines added in here. Okay, so if we were to go back into AutoGrader, right, and we'll just make a kind of a simple change to this pond. Okay, so we'll go to edit. Maybe we want to go maybe at a steeper slope here. Okay, so maybe 50, just to kind of see something drastic in there. So we'll go and save that, and then we can go ahead and rerun this tool. Okay, so unlike with the stepped offsets, we kind of highlighted that when you had created those, they're not dynamically linked. Okay, so this basically kind of links them dynamically, but through the tool. So if we rerun this again, it's going to go ahead and put those on there. So I guess that changed a little bit. I thought that was going to change a little bit more, a little more drastic in there, but we have those in there. Let's go back to surface properties and go and showcase that. Contours and triangles. Okay. All right, and then we have a whole bunch of those other tools. So if we go back to AutoGrader, right, and let's go and set one up for the curb. We don't have one on here. So if you want to walk me through it, and I'll just go and point click as we go through. So I'm going to go and set up a new one, and then go ahead and talk about the differences here. We'll get going.
Yeah, so the big difference is obviously with parallel, it's going to show you here a preview of how it's going to grade. So it's going to be parallel to your feature lines.
Right, like an offset. Yeah.
Right, perpendicular. So you can use this for setting your lot lines. If you're doing residential grading, or you want to grade off of feature line perpendicular. And then the last one, template insertion. This one's fairly new. It's maybe been around a year and a half or so. So what this does, so if you have your lot lines here, what this tool is going to do is you can create a feature line of your pad. You'd want to draw, and we'll show you some examples that we have where you'll have this offset from your feature line or your property line, and it's going to go through and find this elevation and put your pad in based on the parameters you give it. So that's a huge tool for residential lot grading. It takes out a ton of the manual steps that you typically have to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so we're going to do parallel for this one.
Yeah, because we're going to recreate that curb stepped offset that we did with the feature line. Okay.
And then we'll go ahead and select, name it, and select by a filter or in the drawing, either way.
That was one selected versus if we had done by filter, right?
Yeah,
We
you
could
can
do
just hit the green checkbox and click a layer.
Oops. Let me clear this out first. There we go. All right, so that's finding that layer, right?
Yeah,
and now we have all 6 of those selected.
So the only word of caution with this is you have to make sure that your feature lines are going in the right direction with the stationing. So if you grab all the feature lines and one of them's going backwards, then you'll see it pretty quickly. Yeah, we could go ahead and format how the feature lines it's going to create are going to look, whether the style, the layer we want it on, if we want it on a certain site. We can control all those feature line creation settings from here. So we'll go ahead and hit the green plus button. And again, we're at the flow line. So let's go ahead and name this TC
for top of curb.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll go a distance relative elevation. And yeah, the right side should work. And then the distance, so this is the distance horizontally. So we'll go back yeah, 0.167 for 2 inches.
Hmm.
And then elevation difference plus 0.5. Yeah, so that's showing us too, yeah, the preview of how we're going to create these. And then you hit the plus again if you want your backer curve.
So we'll do back, BOC or back. Okay.
Right. And yeah, we want to anchor it to our top of curve. And we'll do, yeah, distance and slope is fine. And then we've got to set the left side again. And then we'll go back 0.33 or 6 inches total from face to back. And 0 because we don't want a grade on top.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll save this guy.
Okay. And then let's go and make a flange for it too. Flange area. And then we'll go ahead and make this one back to the parent. Do distance slope, and we'll go this one off to the right. Then 2%. Okay. All right. So yeah, you can kind of see here, we just kind of created that whole curb and gutter, right? And built that out in there. Okay. Anything else want to add on here, or any other features you like to kind of point out there?
No, I mean, the only thing is that obviously we're going to run the full range, full stationing. But if you wanted to run this on only part of a certain feature line, you can also select a range, kind of like you do with the corridor.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so we'll go 100% of the range in there. Awesome. Cool. So we'll go and save that. Okay, so that added to the list here, right? Okay, so before we run it, what are some of the things we want to look at?
Yeah, so the first thing is you want to add this to your surface. So yeah, you'd want to tell it what surface to add it to. Yeah, and then one of the cool tools I like about this is if you don't have a surface, you can actually create a surface straight from here without having to close this out, go create a surface in Civil 3D. You can just do it straight from here.
Yeah, yeah, it's really built with that in mind to be able to, yeah, because we were so, growing up in the industry, it's always so frustrating. You're in the middle of something, it's like, oh, I need to go add that. So then you have to kind of either redo and things like that. So it's cool that that was brought in mind. Okay. All right. So should we go ahead and run this now?
Yeah.
All right. Let's go and run it. So we can kind of see this working. I should move this out of the way, but while it's going. So it's going building those out in here. Okay.
Yeah, and so now it created those 3 additional feature lines for us, added them to the surface. Yeah, so now if we were to kind of like with the pond, if we were to update that flow line, we would just run the tool again and it'll create those or update those feature lines for us.
Sorry, I was scrolling while you're drawing. Yep. And then we can also tighten up this tin a little bit too, since it's a very, very big on that way. So let's go back to the curb. Okay, and we'll go into the settings over here. Okay. And what do you like to run your mid ordinance distance at?
Yeah, and I guess just for anybody who doesn't know, this is, so see how this is just doing these 2 points right here in this corner. That's where this mid ordinance comes in. So the smaller number you make this, I usually make it 0.1 and you'll get quite a few more vertices along that curve.
Okay.
If you hit OK.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and change that to 0.1. Okay. And that just updated this one, so we can always rerun any of these settings. So see, it's running through all those feature lines. And yeah, if we would have updated those, but yeah, we see a lot tighter around the corner there. Okay. So yeah, let's we'll go ahead and run a couple more of these, then let's switch over to the subdivision for the last 10 minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and just building site, we'll go and run that one. Okay. And then
so this is just doing like a corridor wood where it's tying to existing ground.
Yep. And let's see, I think there was one for building in here. Building pond, building site limits. Nope, maybe not, but That's all right. So I'll go ahead and save real quick. And let's go and take a look at that surface. It's like my favorite thing to do in Civil 3D is just look at things I created.
Mhm.
You're probably the same.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, so we got that going. Let's go ahead and move over to this side here. Okay. All right. So a little bit to talk about on this, just kind of lay of the land. So we have feature lines on here. So we have the right of way as a feature line. We have the alignments in here for the road, and also the lot lines are currently feature lines as well. Okay, but notice here we have basically a beginning and end of that, and then we have our with a little bit of elevation on these
Yeah,
feature lines.
so in the real world, this would be your right-of-way elevation. This is maybe tying to existing ground
Mhm.
at every single one of your lots. So going back to AutoGrader, now we'd want to run a perpendicular one because it's perpendicular to this right-of-way feature line.
Mhm. Yep. And then the different colors on here. So we have basically different lot types. Okay, so we have a basement, a lookout, and a walkout. Okay, so that's just kind of a color visualization of the different lot types in there. So let's go ahead and launch AutoGrader. All right.
Yeah, so
Which one do you want to look at first,
well, we could look
or
at
do you want to create one?
this lookout one first. So um, one above it.
Oh,
Yeah, the
the
lot
lookout
lines.
lot
So
lines.
like if we run this right now, it's going to go from, yeah, from our right of way, and it's going to go a distance and a slope to set the front of our, or the side lot grade, and then it's going to create two other feature lines for us going to the back.
Yep. And we see that it's getting slopes and elevations and same sort of tools again in here. Okay. Let's see, it's going to grab those. Okay. All right. Should we go and run that, or is there anything else you want to
Yeah, go
look
ahead
at?
and run that, because then when you run it, we'll be able to see now. So it added all these to the surface, right? All the yellow
Mm-hmm.
ones. And if you actually select one of those, you'll see that now
Yeah. Let me
those
go and
additional
close.
points have been created.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. So those are additional points. So
Yep.
this is really good for lot line grading. And then so if you can zoom in here real quick so we could see what this pad is doing.
Sure.
So this pad is flat at the front, and then it's dropping on the back side, on that side, and then at the front on this side is going to the front and the back. So it's kind of like a split design.
Mm-hmm.
So what we could tell AutoGrader to do is to insert this a certain offset from our lot line, a certain offset from the right of way, and it'll put this feature line with this grading in the right spot for us to do our lot grading. So typically a typical workflow for this real quick would be, typically you have to, you have your right of way here. You'd have to have something that ties to this. Usually I
Mm-hmm.
would use a feature line, set this side. One of the newer feature line tools is setting a relative elevation on this end, and then putting a label on this so you can see the grade. So let's say you want this to be 2% up, and then you would have to set this elevation again and then set all this. So the typical workflow is, there's a lot of work when the street starts changing. And again,
Yeah.
going back to us never getting it right the first time, it's either going to be and the person reviewing your plans, or the client, or sometimes even just your boss wanting to change the design a little bit. But if you run this Outlook one, we could see how it's, or the Lookout one, because we
Mm-hmm.
just ran the lot lines on it, and we'll see it throw all those pads in at all those yellow
Sure.
lots for us.
All right. So yeah, let's go jump back into AutoGrader here, and we'll go ahead and do the pads for that same lookout. Okay.
Yeah, go to the settings, or yeah, that guy. So yeah, so this is, we're telling it which object which is, this guy down here. We give it a base point, which is our offset from the corner.
High side or low side?
Typically, it's going to be the high side, yeah.
Mm.
And then we go ahead and give it a distance and a slope. So it should go back, 40 feet, wherever this offset is, and set that pad for us.
Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and close that out and let's go and run those. So we'll go ahead and hit run. So we see those populating those pads, throwing in that block for us and adjusting the surface at the same time.
Right.
Okay.
And so, and literally this could have been, a couple hours worth of work to get to this point that you just did in a click of a button.
Yeah. Yeah, it's setting it up. It's and again, kind of go full circle here, right here near the end is, that tool belt, understand, Civil 3D is a tool, we had all started learning off a mentor, and one of the things I realized pretty early on was like, hey, I felt really good about doing everything their way. My mentor, and then when when he went on PTO, I'm like, wait, what do I do next?
Yeah.
So it was just like one of those things. I'm like, I knew his method, but I don't know what it's doing here. So that kind of got me to think about it in a different way of just like, okay, it's not all about workflows and getting it out the door. That's ultimately how we get paid on, ultimately is getting those submitted, but having better understanding is going to help you so much in the long run.
Yeah.
So,
And so you can run, just so people could see real quick. Yeah. So these are the cyan lines, and then we can go ahead and put those pads in. And so you see, this is grading an entire subdivision here pretty quick.
yep.
And then we can do the basement lot lines, which is going to update
And Dean,
those.
I see you have a question. Can perpendicular handle non-radial perpendicular lines, like skewed ones in there?
So that obviously with everything in Civil 3D, there are limitations. And the first question, and I know he's probably talking about knuckles and cul-de-sacs, because those first lots coming into a knuckle or cul-de-sac are never radial on one of the sides. And no, so that's where the manual, everything in Civil 3D, I like to tell people, will get you 90% of the way there, but there is always going to be that one-off thing where you're still going to have to do it manually. But you can see, with just a few clicks here, we're grading this entire subdivision, which would have took us easily, especially a newer person, maybe a week of work. But with these tools, we're able to do it fairly quickly.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we can it's always a good place to, like, I would rather have a good place to get started and do like all the, repetitive stuff for me. And then I can go through and like clean up, some of the things that might not have worked or might not have figured it out in there. Right. So I like getting into the nitty gritty parts of it. Some of that's more exciting, but sometimes you can't spend as much time as you would like to because you have all the repetitive tasks to redo again. So
Right.
on a tool,
And
something like this, you can get those repetitive tasks out of the way and then work
yeah.
through there.
And to answer Dean's other question, yes, you can follow a setback line. You would just have to have a feature line. So you can either create it, obviously doing a parallel feature line off of your right of way to set your setback line, and then run this tool off of that. Yes, you absolutely could.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, well, that kind of wraps up to it. We're definitely, let me go ahead and go back to the and switch settings again, swap presenter, there we go. And let's just kind of do a little review, take some question answers and things like that. But yeah, if you have to, if your lunch is over and you have to kick out, appreciate you attending for one. We like kind of doing these things. This is a great time to kind of talk shop, and I like appreciate all the questions and answers, and Kyle also jumping on to answer a lot of the questions while we were kind of going through here. But yeah, let's go ahead and do a review, but we'll go and stick around for a little bit, in case there's any other questions, additional thoughts, comments, things like that. But just to kind of review, we had went through a handful of Civil 3D methods, okay? With stepped offsets, we did creating grading objects, corridors, we went through AutoGrader, and we discussed some of the differences between, and again, just to kind of reiterate, there's no right or wrong way. It's just understanding the tool. And like Felix mentioned a couple times, like to kind of use them different from what was shown from us, maybe some out of the box, or use it for those things. I've seen parking lots get designed in 100% as corridors, so a whole bunch of alignments, offset alignments, things like that in there to be able to do those. I've also seen them created with feature lines, or created here with AutoGrader like we did here today. So
yeah, and feel free to reach out with any questions. We'll can definitely answer them.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Anything else? Any other parting words or anything like that? I'm just kind of reading through the chat here a little bit.
No, I mean, I think it's like you were saying, it's or like the last point says here, you have to determine which method works for you. I mean, we're all at different levels. So, there's some of us, and I've had this happen where sometimes I get way too creative on a project, and then I'm out sick or somebody has to update my surface and they have to explode everything because they don't know what I did. So it's a matter of, keeping everybody informed on how you're doing stuff around you, and picking what works for everybody, or helping everybody kind of move along in their growth within the software and the industry and experience to be able to work with your stuff.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I saw some on there. So yeah, all of our webinars are recorded, and we upload those to our YouTube page. So that's really kind of the best way to get to those. And then I think, yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn, but also with attending the webinars and things like that, those will be on there. So get to kind of find out what's going on. There's a lot of things, and really, like, what we like to kind of do is just kind of showcase things, right? This is a little more collaboration, and showcase and bring in industry experts like Felix, kind of what he's seeing out there in the world there, and then new tools and things like that. I did see something about the new like the 2023, asking about the did you answer that already about some of the new optimization tools and things like that Civil 3
Yeah,
has? They've been
I
doing that
answered
in
that.
there. Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull up
Yeah,
the
the
YouTube.
optimization tool, that's a whole other beast. I mean, that thing does, if it would work correctly, it runs multiple versions of your grading and tries to get you whatever earthwork you're telling it you want. There's obviously a lot of setup with that as well. It's a whole other workflow.
Yeah. Yep. So it'll be popping up on here, and we got a variety of things from Tech Talks, which are kind of short, like 3 to 4 minute videos. Bluebeam, Civil 3D. It'll be popping up here in the Civil 3D full playlist. But see, we got a bunch of videos in here about that, and they variety in size. So something like today will be a full hour of content, but then there's also some other ones. So different
Yeah, and there's
tips and
I
tricks.
did a couple of them a little over a year ago too, specifically about residential lot grading. So if anybody wants to check that out about how to better set up the AutoGrader tool. So
Yeah,
that's
if you miss hearing the sound of Felix's voice, come to the YouTube channel, and yeah, some of his are on here. And then also Kyle Groves, he was on the chat too. He has some on here too, as well. And then my background was, or I had done some reality capture, so I kind of have a few here on the civil side, and then also some in the reality capture playlist as well. So anyway, but yeah, I think we'll go and wrap that up. I appreciate everybody attending. Love the interaction. Thanks so much, Felix, for jumping on and helping out. This was I really enjoyed this, having someone to bounce off of versus just kind of speaking to myself. So
Yeah,
appreciate
exactly.
you taking the
Yeah,
time for us.
anytime. Yeah,
Awesome.
anytime. I think it was a good forum for everybody.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, so we'll go ahead and close this out. But again, feel free to reach out to us. Again, we got the YouTube here, we got our emails, all that kind of stuff. So go ahead and reach out, and we can kind of continue on, whether that's if you want to look more at the CTC tools, if you're looking at additional training for your company, or if you just kind of want to talk shop, we like doing that stuff too. So, all right, that's it. All right, I'm going to say bye for everybody. And again, thanks, Felix, and thanks everybody on the chat.
Yeah, drive fast, take chances.
Yep. All right, have a good one, everybody.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.